Hi everybody, this is Justina with JustynaThandMade. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm gonna walk you through how to create the Jade backpack. The twist to the video is that we're gonna be sewing the backpack at a smaller scale. I'll scale the backpack down to 85%. Because I want to give you more options with each pattern I design. I want to show you how to scale down the pattern to create a smaller backpack. The pattern itself comes with the full written instructions how to create the bag, so you can follow the instructions and support yourself with this video. This video will apply to the full size pattern at 99%. All the steps are the same. There's just a couple things we have to keep in mind if you want to resize your project, and I will walk you through those changes. So like I said, this is 85% scale Jade backpack. Just to compare, this is the backpack that is featured in my in the full pattern, and you can see it's a quite bit smaller, the 85% version. I think both are great size. I actually like the bigger one. I carry it as my purse right now because I can fit everything I need in it, including my water. But if you wanna something that it's a little less bulky to have with you, you can create this smaller 85% version. So both of those bags have front and back zipper pockets. Even on the smaller version, they will fit a cell phone in here. Inside, the back is obviously fully lined. There's no pockets, but following the instruction for the front or back zipper pocket, you can add a zipper pocket in the lining. So that's up to you. I didn't want the video to be too long and give you instructions for the same technique multiple times. This pattern, it's available in my Etsy store. You can purchase it at a discount for limited time after release of this video. To get the discount code, you will have to join my Facebook group. There will be a post announcing release of the video, and the discount code will be included. If you have any questions about this pattern or any technique I'm using in this video, please leave a comment, or you can contact me via Facebook or Instagram. The full supply list for the project is posted on Etsy. Obviously, that supply list applies to the bigger bag, but if you can make a bigger bag out of it, the supplies will definitely be enough to create the smaller one. I hope you've been enjoying the tutorials on my channel. If you want me to be able to create more tutorials in the future, please consider supporting my channel. There are multiple ways to do so. If you are not yet a subscriber, please make sure to subscribe. Please interact with this video by giving it a thumbs up or leaving a comment. If you would like to monetarily support my channel, you can use the thanks option on YouTube, and definitely you can put your money to good use and purchase one of my patterns on Etsy. And now, if you want to see how this Jade backpack comes together, please keep watching. To start our project, we're gonna prep all our pattern pieces and our supplies, and I will walk you through how to adjust the pattern pieces in order to make the smaller version of the backpack. Obviously, if you are making just the 100% scale backpack, you will just cut all the pattern pieces as they are provided in the pattern. So please keep in mind that some of the pieces for the smaller backpack, we're gonna print at 85% scale, but some of the pattern pieces still have to remain at 100. First, we have our panel A, which are the two top front panels. and I already interface both with panel D, and those need to be cut at the 85% scale. Then we have also, I cut my lining using the panel A at 85%. Then we have our cuts for panel B. So we have 2 outers cut at 85% and 2 lining panels. On the panel B, you just have to keep in mind that this little step down needs to be cut at 3/8 of an inch from this edge. So although you are scaling down the pattern, cut this little lip a little longer, so it's the depth of it is 3/8 of an inch, and you do that on both the lining and the outer panels. Then we have panel C, so I have my outer and my lining, and I interface both with Decoville Light. I didn't go by the cut list because those 2 panels are scaled down. I cut the outer based on the provided template, and then deducted 3/8 of an inch on each side of the width, and cut my interfacing to make sure that the interfacing stays out of the way of the seam on the longer edges. And I did that on both the lining and the outer panels and fuse my interfacing. Now we are moving over to panels that need to be printed at 100% scale. First, we have our front and back outer zipper pocket overlays. And here we're gonna use a trick because we want the pocket to be a little smaller to fit better on our smaller panels. So the way to do that, you print the pattern panel G at 100% scale, then you fold it in half, and the folded edge you fold by 1/2 inch. Now you open your panel, and this way you get the smaller version of the overlay, and you can tape it together if you like. I didn't tape it because I wanted to show you how I did it, but definitely you can tape it, and then based on this smaller overlay panel G, you cut your 2 overlay panels G. The full scale overlay will fit on the smaller panel. So you can skip that adjustment and just cut a big one, but I felt that just a smaller one would look better on the smaller backpack. So those are my 2 zipper overlays. Then I'm moving over to panel E. So this panel E also gonna be print and cut at 100% scale, along with our panel F. For our side connectors, you want to make sure you are cutting them at 100% scale. After that, we have our webbing, which I pre-cut the side connectors and my handle, and I have my big spool ready for my main straps. Also my zippers, so I cut a rough cut of the zipper. You can use the measurement from the pattern, or you can just lay over your zipper along the curved edge of panel A, and just make sure you have some overhang on the ends, and that's how you can size the zipper for the smaller panel. When it comes to cutting the zipper for your outside pocket, you just want to make sure it's about the same size as your full overlay, so you have space on both sides to sew your zipper in. So that's how you size your zipper pockets. When it comes to the lining pieces for your zipper pockets, you want to make sure that the width of it should be the size of the overlay, and the other measurement is provided in the cut list. So now we have all our elements prepped. You can also see that I attach my back tag already. You can do that as well. Just keep in mind that we're gonna have a zipper here, and then we need space for our seam allowance on the bottom. I did it about 1.5 inches from the bottom edge in the center. And now that we have all our cuts ready, we're gonna work on our zipper. So you wanna take your zipper tape and mark the center. Do the same with your outer panel. Also, you're gonna make marks that are 1 inch from the bottom edge. And now you're gonna start clipping your zipper along the curved edge, making sure that the zipper is coiled side down. Ease the zipper tape, don't stretch it, just ease it along the curved edge. Now that I have the zipper clipped, I want to mark my 1 inch marks on the zipper tape. I'm going to use pins to do so. And now that I have my panel prepped like this, I'm gonna take it to the machine and I'm gonna baste my zipper onto my panel A, my front panel A. You can work with front or back, it doesn't matter at this point. So after you have your zipper and your panel A connected like this, you're gonna take your panel to the machine and making sure you are slipping your zipper at the 1 inch mark. You're gonna baste it along this edge with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Make sure to not sew the zipper on all the way down. You wanna slip your zipper at the 1 inch mark. Now that I have my zipper base to my front panel A, I'm gonna transfer the mark of the center and where my zipper slips at the 1 inch mark. And I'm gonna split my zipper tape. Now take my back panel A and mark my 1 inch spots. I'm gonna take my zipper tape, making sure it's coiled side down. I'm gonna now clip the zipper tape along the curved edge of the back panel A. And when I have my panel prepped like this, I'm gonna take it back to the machine and I'm gonna repeat what I did on the front panel A. I'm gonna base my zipper on with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, making sure I'm slipping my zipper tails so they are not sewn all the way through the bottom edge of the panel. Now that our zipper is sewn in to our back panel A, we're gonna work on our handle and our top connectors. So you want to take the webbing tape that it's cut to size for our handle and 2 top square rings. I'm gonna find the midpoint of my panel, so I'm gonna fold it in half and make a crease. And now I'm gonna measure 1 3/4 inch from the top of my base stitch line. So and I'm gonna make a line that it's about 2 inches, and you want to be using a heat erase pen or something that can be erased. This is gonna be covered with our handle overlay, but you still want to make sure you're not gonna mark your outer material with something that cannot be removed. So you want to make sure that your line is straight. And once again, I'm gonna find the midpoint, so I want to make sure I'm gonna be right in the middle. And now I want to mark 1 inch, so 1/2 inch from the center mark. And now my panel is ready for assembly. I'm gonna use double-sided tape to help me hold the webbing tape in place. At this point, you want your hardware to be inserted. And now we're gonna place our handle along the mark line with the 1 inch space in between. When you have your project prepped like this, take it to the machine and base the webbing onto your panel, making sure it stays nice and straight. You can give it 2 based stitch lines to just make sure it stays nice and secure. Now that your handle is base stitch onto your panel, you're gonna move the hardware up, and you're gonna take panel E, the handle overlay, and you can use some double-sided tape. I'm gonna do that. And now you're gonna place your overlay over. You want to make sure you can kind of feel it with your fingers that it's the webbing tape is halfway through. You want to make sure your overlay is centered. And it's nice and straight. It should be about 2 inches, or I have 2 inches and 2 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. You don't want to make it too high because you still want to be able to create your loops, so just keep that in mind. All right, so now that you are happy with the placement of your handle overlay, you're gonna take your project back to the machine and you're gonna top stitch the overlay around the outside edge with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that your overlay is sewn in, you can add some rivets if you like. This is optional. I'm gonna add 1 rivet on each side. Now that my rivets are installed, we're gonna move on to attaching lining to our both top panels. So you're gonna grab your lining panels, making sure your handle stays out of the way of the seam. You can also move the hardware down. You're gonna place the lining right sides together. And clip along the curved edge, making sure you are keeping your zipper out. When you have both panels prepped like this, you're gonna take both to the machine and you're gonna sew along those curved edges with the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Make sure you are keeping the zipper tails out of the way of the seam. We don't want them to be sewn in all the way down. So take it to the machine and sew the lining onto your panels A. Now that you have the lining sewn in on both panels, we're gonna turn the panels right side out. You can finger press the seam, make sure you're pulling it out so you have a nice round top. You can also take it to the ironing board and give it a press. Just keep in mind your vinyl element, so don't touch that or your back label with an iron. Then you're gonna bring your hardware down and you're gonna top stitch both panels along this seam with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. On the back panel, you want to make sure you are top stitching through your webbing. We want to create our loops, and you can back stitch on the outside edges of your webbing on both sides. So top stitch the panel, making sure your handle is in the upwards position, and you're gonna be top stitching through your webbing. So after you have your panels prepped or finger pressed or pressed with an iron, take it to the machine and top stitch both. Now we have our panels top stitched, and on the back panel now we created our loops, and I back stitch on each end of my webbing, so to give it a little more strength. So now that our top panels are prepped, we're gonna work on our bottom outer panels. So take both bottom outer panels and your outer zipper overlays, and now you can use some double-sided tape. We're gonna be now sewing our overlays onto our panels, so we're gonna place some double-sided tape to help us affix our overlays to our panels. Now we're gonna mark the centers of the top of our panels. Take our ruler that is 1 inch in width and place the overlay along the ruler, making sure it's centered. Now that you have both overlays placed on your panels, you can make sure they are nicely centered. So when you're happy with the placement, you're gonna take both panels to the machine and you're gonna top stitch the overlay on along the outside edge with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. So you're gonna be sewing the overlays only along the outside edge on your both panels B. Now that the overlays are sewn in, we're gonna cut out our openings in our panels B. All done. It doesn't have to be pretty, you just have to make sure you are not cutting your overlay on the right side and that the zipper opening in the overlay should be smaller than the cutout in your panel. So now we have those panels prepped for our zipper pockets. We need to create our lining zipper pockets. So you're gonna take all your pattern pieces for the lining of your zipper pockets and both of your zipper pockets zipper tapes, and starting with one of the panels, you're gonna place the panel right side up and your zipper coil side up and affix it along the edge that is the same size. Do the same thing with the other zipper. Now place your smaller lining panels right side up. Take one of the panels with the zipper, flip it over so the zipper is coil side up, and affix the zipper along the longer edge of the lining panel. Repeat that with the other pocket, so we want our lining to be right side up. And place our zipper along the longer edge. Now that our pocket lining panels are prepped, we're gonna take both to the machine and we're gonna sew the zippers on with the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Make sure to backstitch well on the beginning and on the end of each seam, and when you're sewing you want to make sure you have this lining panel out of the way. You sew that part of the zipper onto the shorter lining panel. Then you flip it over, pull your lining, making sure you are sewing the other edge of the zipper tape only to the lining, and you're gonna sew along the zipper edge. You're gonna do that with both lining pocket panels. So take it to the machine and sew the zipper onto our lining panels for our zipper pockets. Now that our zipper is sewn in, and as you can see, I already pressed my pocket to make sure that the zipper tape is nice and flat. So now that the zipper is sewn in, we're gonna attach the pocket inside of our zipper opening in panels B. First, you wanna insert your zipper pull, and you wanna make sure, because this is how the pocket will be positioned inside of the panel B, because the longer lining panel will cover the shorter. You want to establish the direction how your pocket will open. I like my pocket to be closing from the right to the left. That's how I'm going to prep my pockets. So go ahead and insert your zipper pulls. And now I'm gonna place some double-sided tape along my zipper edge to affix my pockets lining inside of my zipper openings. Making sure that my larger panel is on the top, I'm gonna place the zipper or center the zipper inside of my zipper opening. I like to pull my zipper pull almost to the end. This ensure that this edge is as straight as possible. So I want to make sure I have an equal overhang on each side, and that the zipper coils are centered inside of my zipper opening. Now I'm gonna repeat that with the other panel. And now, if you are happy with the placement of your zipper inside of your zipper opening, you're gonna take both panels to the machine and you're gonna sew along the zipper opening with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. You want to make sure that your pocket stays nice and open on the back of your project. You don't want to sew and close the pocket in, so make sure the pocket lining is open and that you are sewing along the zipper with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Do that on both panels B. Now that our pocket linings are sewn in, we're gonna finish up our pockets, so you can take a look and see which overlay looks better to you and which panel you want to use as the front of your bag. I think that's going to be my front. So I'm gonna flip that over and I'm gonna clip the lining all around. On the back panel, I'm gonna fold the bottom part of my lining, the bottom edge, up by about 3/8 of an inch to 1/2 inch up. Finger press it, you can clip it. And when you have both panels prepped like this, you're gonna take them to the machine and you're gonna sew along those 3 edges to close the lining in your front outer pocket. On the back outer pocket, you're gonna sew only the sides of the lining. You're gonna leave the bottom edge unsewn. So take your project to the machine, sew the lining with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, making sure you are leaving bottom edge of the lining in the back outer panel unsewn. Make sure you are not sewing on the outer panel, so flip your panel over and sew on that side, making sure your outer panel is out of the way of your seam. Now that your pockets are sewn and I left one of the edges unsewn, we're gonna work on our side connectors. So I'm gonna take my side connectors panels and my webbing. I'm gonna thread my hardware on. Now I'm gonna fold the connectors in half, making a crease. And I'm gonna insert my connectors close to the crease, having the webbing tape overhang by about 1/2 inch. And fold the panel back. And now I'm gonna take both to the machine and I'm gonna sew along this edge where my connector is inserted with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Make sure to backstitch well on the beginning and on the end of your seam. Now that your side connectors are sewn, you're gonna turn them right side out. Now you can take the connectors back to the machine and you can top stitch along this sewn and folded edge. If you don't want to, you don't have to, you can press it. This is waterproof canvas, so it should press nicely. So take the connectors to the machine and top stitch, or take it to the ironing board and give them a nice press. After you have your connectors pressed or top stitch, we're gonna base stitch them on one of our outer panels. It doesn't matter which one. So you can take one of the panels and making sure you are placing the connectors so the hardware is facing up. You're gonna place it about 1 inch from the bottom edge, this little indent. So you want to make sure you're gonna have about 1 inch space left, and you can just clip the connectors on. Make sure that both are in the same place, and when you have that prepped, take the panel to the machine and baste those connectors onto your panel B. Now that we have the connectors based, we're gonna work on our base of our back. So you're gonna take your panel C and you're gonna place it right sides together along this little lip on the bottom of your panel and clip. Then you're gonna take your second panel, flip your project over and clip the other edge of the base along the bottom edge of your second panel B. When you have your project prepped like this, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna sew following the edge of your panel B. So you're gonna be sewing along this edge, making sure you're connecting those 2 points. It should be 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So you're gonna sew one side of the base to one of your panels B and repeat the same thing on the other side. So you're gonna be sewing from that point up to this point with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Make sure to backstitch well on the beginning and on the end of both seams. Now that you have the base sewn in, you're gonna fold the seam allowance so it's behind the base on both ends, and you're gonna take it back to the machine and you're gonna top stitch along both edges, making sure that the seam allowance is behind the base panel. Now that our base is top stitched and now it lies nice and flat on our panels, we're gonna now base stitch our top panels. So at this point, just make sure that you are basting the front panel to the panel you chose as the front one. So that's my front panel. So I'm gonna take my project. I'm gonna mark the midpoint of my top panel. And I'm gonna clip it along the top edge, making sure it's centered. And I'm gonna repeat the same thing with the back panel. You may want to check if you have equal space on both ends. Now that I have my unit prepped like this, I'm gonna take the unit to the machine and I'm gonna baste both top panels onto my outer unit. Now my top panels are based and I think the back is looking cute. And now we're gonna prep our lining panel. So you're gonna take your lining, and here's a side note: if you want to add a zipper pocket to the lining to have an inside zipper pocket, you would just repeat what we did with our outer zipper pocket. You would need to cut additional zipper overlay, a zipper tape, and 2 additional lining panels, and you would just follow the steps on how to attach the outer zipper pocket and put one onto your lining panel. And this way you would create an additional zipper pocket inside. But I'm not going to do that. You can refer to the instructions on how to add the zipper onto the outer panel and add one onto your lining. So now that we're gonna be working with our lining, we're gonna take our panels B and our base, and we're gonna sew the base onto one of our linings. So you want to make sure they are right sides together. Align the base of our lining with the little lip on the bottom of our panel B and clip. And take it to the machine and sew along this edge with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, connecting those 2 points, making sure you backstitch well on the beginning and on the end of your seam. Now that the base is attached to our lining, we're gonna add our lining to our main unit. So you wanna make sure that your project is right side up. And if you did add a pocket on one of your lining panels, now just make sure if you want the pocket to be in the front, just add the lining panel to the front of your bag. If you want it to be on the back, just add it to the back. So now I'm gonna place my lining panels along the top edge of my project, still making sure my zippers are out of the way. Repeat that with the other lining. It doesn't matter which lining with the base you're adding on which side. That doesn't matter. Just make sure you are placing the panels right sides together. Now that you have your project prep like this, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna sew along those 2 edges with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, making sure your zipper tails are out of the way of your seam. So do that on both sides. Now that your lining is sewn in on both sides, we're gonna take our project. We're gonna fold the seam allowance behind our outer panel, keeping the lining up. So you wanna finger press your seam, making sure that the seam allowance is behind this panel, but your lining is staying in an upwards position, and that's how you're gonna top stitch your outer panel. And you're gonna do the same on the back. So you're gonna fold your seam allowance behind your outer panel, keeping the lining in an upward position. You're gonna top stitch along this edge, and you're gonna be top stitching with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that our seams are top stitched, we're gonna now connect our sides. So you're gonna start with the top seam. You want to make sure that they align nicely. Repeat that on the other side, making sure your zipper is out of the way. And now clip your lining panels as well. And when you have your project prep like this, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna sew the sides. You're gonna first start on the midpoint where your panels, the lining and the outer meets, to make sure you're gonna get a nice even connection, you want to make sure that those two panels align nicely on the top. So you're gonna start sewing from the top to the bottom, and again from the top to the bottom with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. When that's done and your panels align nicely here, you're gonna move on to the lining and you're gonna sew from the top to the bottom again. You can increase the seam allowance as you're sewing towards the bottom slightly. So start with 3/8 of an inch and then slightly increase the seam allowance the same width on both sides. So take it to the machine and sew the sides on, making sure you are not catching the zippers in the seam or any other elements. Now that our sides are sewn, we're gonna complete the base on our lining. So you're gonna bring the base to the open edge of the other lining panel and clip. We're gonna mark about 2 inches from the side on the base edge, and we're gonna take the project to the machine and we're gonna sew only this small piece of the base seam because this is gonna be our main turning hole, and then we're gonna finish up this part through our pocket. So when you have the base clipped to the other lining panel, take it to the machine and sew this little portion at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Make sure to backstitch well where the opening starts and ends. Now that the little seams are completed, we're gonna box all our 4 corners. So on the lining, you may just fold the seam allowance on one side. On the bottom, you want to butterfly your seam allowance. When you have your corners prepped like this, you're gonna take your project to the machine and you're gonna sew along those 4 open edges with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, making sure you are backstitching well on the beginning and on the end of your seam. You can increase the seam allowance a little bit on the lining part so it fits tighter inside. Now our corners are boxed. We can trim the seam allowances. And now that you have all of that done, we're gonna turn our project right side out through our opening in our main lining. You want to butterfly those seams here before you fold the lining inside and clip. Inspect your project, making sure everything looks nice and that nothing needs to be fixed. I think mine is looking good. So now we're gonna work on closing our lining. So what you want to do, you want to reach through the pocket where you have the opening and pull the main lining out. And now you're gonna clip the edge together. And when you have your lining prepped like this, you're gonna take the project back to the machine and you're gonna sew along the open edge to connect your seams with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, making sure you are overlapping the short seams that we created previously. Now that your seam is completed, we're gonna push the lining back in through the pocket. Make sure it's nicely placed inside of your bag. We're gonna give the lining some final press after we close our pocket. So now that we have our pocket out, fold the raw edges inside. And when you have that prep, take it to the machine and top stitch along the edge with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that your pocket is closed, place it back inside. You can now take the project to the ironing board and give it a press. Just press from the lining side of your project using a pressing cloth. Make sure you are not touching your vinyl with the iron directly. You don't want to damage your project when it's almost done. So take it to the ironing board and give it a nice press so the project is ready for the final steps. So now, after giving my back a nice press, I'm ready for the last steps. So I have to finish up my zipper and I have to add my back strap. If you like looser fit on your backpack, just cut the webbing for the back strap a little longer. Make sure it's the way you like it. And zipper, on the zipper on this backpack, I'm gonna use this pre-made metal zipper end caps, but if you don't have those or you don't like the look, you can just follow what's in the pattern instruction and add vinyl zipper ends. Also, you can decide if you want to put a two zipper pulls so the backpack opens this way, or you can just add one zipper pull and you will just have backpack that opens from one side to the other. I'm gonna insert two zipper pulls because I like the look. So first you want to make sure that everything aligns nicely. That your panels are at the same level, and you want to clip your zipper so you know that that's the way it should be. Do the same thing on the other side. And now insert your zipper pull. Now that I'm happy how my zipper pulls fit, I'm gonna insert my zipper caps. So you wanna see how long you want the zipper overhang to be. I want it to be probably here, so that's about an inch below my lower panel. I'm gonna insert my caps. Now that our zipper is completed, we're gonna work on our strap. So you're gonna take the strap and put the short edge through the hardware on the top, fold the webbing by 1/2 inch, and then fold it by 1 inch. You can take it to the machine and sew it on, or use rivets to attach your strap, and that's what I'm gonna do. Now that that's prepped, we're gonna take the end of the strap and our sliding adjuster, making sure that the strap it's not twisted. We're gonna thread it over the middle bar. Now we're gonna take the strap and thread it over the side connector, bring the strap over, and again thread it over the middle bar. Pull and clip the edge to the part that you just threaded. And now your bag is ready to use. The project is now completed. Your Jade backpack made at 85% scale is ready to use. I hope that this tutorial is helpful and it's gonna be a good addition to the pattern. If you want to create the full-size bag, you can just follow this tutorial as well. 95% of this tutorial apply to the 100% scale bag. But if you want to create a smaller version, you also have the option, and I'm showing you what needs to be adopted for it to happen. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do, please make sure to support my channel by subscribing, giving the video a like, or leaving me a comment. I look forward to hearing from you. If you would like to join my small sewing community, you can join my Facebook group or follow me on Instagram. Links to both are in the description box below. And if you want to make a Jade backpack for yourself or for your friends, you can grab a pattern from my Etsy store. Link is also in the description box below. Till the next time.